Conversations and storytelling helps us connect with each other, teaches us relatable life lessons, and helps us define who we are as humans. This podcast is focused around women from all walks of life, how we grow, navigate, impact the world that we live in to tell the often untold story. The Rise of Woman is a story of loss, growth, triumph, inspiration, fabulous failure, and all in between. Warning, in this podcast, there is cursing and adult content.
Hello, my name is Zenobia Viola Harris Bivens. I'm 37 years old. My zodiac sign is Virgo, ruled by the planet Mercury. Today, I'm with my sister, Regina Ray Harris, and you're listening to LRI Infinity, Let's Talk podcast.
That's Zenobia. And in this episode, you will hear the unapologetic story of a woman who is a wife, a traveler, a mother, the oldest grandchild on both sides, a lawyer, and so much more. Okay, so all right, I've already rolled my eyes about 80 times. So I was...
Are we going to start off like that for real?
Yeah, no, that's the start. So I was absolutely debating saying if you were my sister or not, but since you've already said it, yes, this is my big sister that I'm interviewing. I'm super excited. So we're going to jump in. So what's a moment that has impacted your life that you remember just right off the rip?
I mean, there's a lot of moments that have impacted me. I mean, we share some of them. Some of them we don't. I mean, there's just a lot of moments that have changed my life and impacted me. I could list some. The first time I met my husband.
When was that? Where was that?
We were in Canyon, Texas. In 2001. September 11th had just happened, and so like our society was sort of changing, and I had, for the first time in my college speech and debate career, had a weekend off, and it just happened I met my future husband that weekend. I went to my first football game in college, and my husband was there watching his cousin play, and it was should not have happened, but I met him and I liked him. Now, almost 20 years later, here we are.
Could you say that that's an experience that has changed your life?
Of course.
Do you remember, like, where were you at as a person in that time in your life? And did you think in those moments, or even a month later, that, oh, I'm going to be with him and he's going to know my dad and have half the donation to my son and everything and be married and share animals? Did any of that come to mind when you first met him?
Yes, because our mom always told me that when you meet the man that you want to marry, you need to look at his teeth. And that will tell you if you want, and know about his bones, and make sure that he has the dense bone structure, because you don't want frail children. And if a man takes care of his teeth, that's a good sign. And so I ended up, for various reasons, riding back from the football game in New Mexico back to Texas in a car with my now husband, for 2.5 hours. And I totally violated our dad's rule about stranger danger and guys and riding with men you don't know, and this was before cell phones were like they are now. And I just did it because I trusted him for some reason.
So wait, when you met him, you rode back with him?
I rode to the football game with my girlfriends. And one of my girlfriends at the time was dating his cousin. And so I figured that, if they trusted him and it'd be safe, I just broke my rule. Dad's rule. And it was my rule at the time, too. And I'm happy I did, because I rode back with him for 2 hours, and we talked about everything. I asked my husband about reparations, because I dated guys who didn't have an opinion about reparations.
I think I remember you saying something about this at some time, and I was like, huh.
And then I asked to see his teeth, and my husband takes a lot of pride in his teeth. So he proudly showed me his teeth. And they were sparkly white. And I asked him about his bone density. And he gladly told me that, you know, he has really dense bones, and explained to me that his family heals quickly from, like, if they ever have a broken leg or something. And he talked about his injuries and how quickly he bounced back. And I was with my husband down the road when he broke his ankle and then broke his wrist, and he was right. He heals quickly. So I think our son is going to be a little bionic boy.
He already is.
With good, he has good teeth.
He does. Mm-hmm. For a little boy.
Yeah, he does. The dentist tells him.
What? He's in the what percentile?
No. Dean will brush those teeth, boy. Get it in good.
Okay. How is your outlook on how you grew up?
Do you want me to tell you what I really think?
Yeah. Your story.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I mean, our parents had me at a very, very, very young age. They were 22 and 23.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so by the time mom and dad were my age, I was going to college.
Okay.
Mom was 39 when I went to college. And that's weird. And so I grew up when mom and dad really didn't, they were making a lot of mistakes. Mom was hustling because she was a black woman in the military, and they both, and they had me and two other very young children. So at a very early age, I took on a lot of responsibility. And I took on a lot of responsibility. I did your hair. I cooked. I cleaned. I was responsible for making sure y'all got inside in time. And, and mom and dad, it's not a judgment on them, mm-hmm. but they needed help, mm-hmm. Because they weren't living with their parents around the corner. And so the person they had to lean on was me.
The oldest kid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so now as a parent, and I look back at all the stuff that our parents were doing, and the fact they stayed married, and the fact that, that they were able to pull themselves up financially and all that stuff. I'm just like, I don't know how they did it with no family around.
Right.
Like zero.
None.
And I mean, we're talking about living in a different country, and so, I did not appreciate the mom and dad and, both of them, until I really, really, truly appreciate them and understand them better until I became a parent. And I saw all the balancing that you have to constantly do.
Right.
And so, but I think that's the thing about having kids at a really young age. Our oldest kid's going to be like a linchpin. Man. So.
Wow. Yeah. Our growing up experiences are way different. Just even in, wow. Never heard that before. So, so out of all the places that we've lived together and the experiences we have, what is your favorite? What's one of your memories of us that comes to mind when you're like, here she come?
What do you mean? Like when I moved to the cities?
No, any city, any memory you have, like what's one of your favorites?
Oh, my favorite one is when you were laying on the ground.
We have the same one.
Oh my God.
Okay, go back.
This just shows how sort of I walk in the house and you're laying on the living room floor in front of like the credenza with the TV, and I asked you, I'm like, Gina, are you okay? You're like on your stomach on the floor, and I'm just like, are you okay? And you're like, I have the flu. And I was just like, oh my gosh, and I start going into mommy mode. I'm like, yes. You need anything? I'll get you some soup. You gotta, have you been to the doctor's office? Bitch, you were hung over.
But who told you?
My husband.
Darvell. Snitches get stitches. No, yeah, I remember that because that's so funny. Cause
I didn't even know you were drinking. And Darvell was like, you didn't see all those bottles in their closet? And I was just like, no. I don't even, because I didn't go in your stuff.
Which was appreciated. Until you did go buy stuff and you're like, what are all these?
I did?
I remember that, yeah. So I remember I had them in a red bag and it was all the like liquor bottles.
Was there a jug looking one?
Yeah, they were handles.
Okay,
yeah.
that was the first time I saw a handle. That was the first time I saw a handle of liquor. I was in graduate school. I was 22, 23 years old. That was the first time in my life I ever saw a handle of liquor. And
so you said graduate school, University of Alabama. How was that experience? What do you think about it? What'd you learn there? Did you keep friends from there? Anything?
Friends from there. No, I haven't really stayed in touch, unfortunately, with some of the people I really valued from Alabama. My husband would say that was Zenobia 3.0. Because I've gone through many iterations in my growth. And I would say that my experience in Alabama is exactly what people would think it would be. I mean, there were discrimination, there was racism, but the thing that so I'll say this, it would be what people would think about racism in Alabama and things being backwards. But there was also this beautiful part of Alabama that just, I miss it because it was just so
simple.
It was simple and something about it was warm. Mm-hmm. You know, it's something warm and southern, and the history there is so deep. Like, it's like, if you want to talk about the civil rights movement, I mean, other than Mississippi, you can't go to a better place to really to understand where we have come from. Slavery, the civil rights movement, you know, it's there, and that's something that just really has stuck with me for the rest of my life, is that history, more so than the racism, is the ability of people to overcome.
Okay, cool. Would you rather be crazy rich or deeply in love?
Deeply in love.
Why?
Because I love being deeply in love.
Okay.
And I'll be rich. Maybe not crazy rich.
What would you do if you were crazy rich?
What do you mean? What would I do?
With the money?
I'd stay exactly where I am. And I'd just live my life the way it is, and invest and create generational wealth.
So Dad died, and it has played different roles on everybody in our family. And I think, like I had told you the other day, it's weird hearing stories from Johnny or Jessica or even our cousin Kendra about Dad. Like, we all had way different relationship with him. And so how has losing Dad like impacted you the most?
I mean, that's very hard for me to say, because I feel like Dad has been preparing me for him not being part of my life for a very long time.
What do you mean?
When Dad dropped me off for college, that was it. Like, Dad basically, like, I don't know how to explain it. I went on my way.
Like, pushed you over the ledge and said, "Fly, birdie."
Yeah. That was it. Like, I think I didn't ask Mom and Dad I didn't ask them for anything, because in my head, for me, they had nothing to give me, because remember, Mom and Dad were living in that apartment when I went to college.
Yeah, you had beat me up right before you went to college.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, finish this though.
And Dad dropped me off. He gave me $20. And he left. And but dad really, that was it, you know. Dad obviously has been a huge influence on me in some very spectacular ways. But dad, I don't know, dad, he made me very hard. Like, not hard, like, I don't know, like, dad trained me to be very, very resilient. And and I don't want to say that was like that was the beginning and end of him being part of my life like that.
But isn't being resilient all the time hard? Oh,
yeah. But I mean, the thing, I don't even know how to describe. I don't know if resilient is the right word, but that was the end of dad being in my life the way he was when I lived in the house, you know. And I still talk to dad. And I particularly talked to dad when I had to make business decisions, and when good things happen, he, you know, I always would call dad. And that's probably when I miss dad the most, when I accomplish something, particularly recently, because a lot of our last conversations were about the things that I'm accomplishing now. And so, but I mean, dad, I feel like I went through Regina and Johnny Harris boot camp. Like, for real. And it just was, after that was different. And then I met my husband, and it definitely was different because, you know, I had to make a union with that person. And then I became a parent, and it became different. And so it was just always different after I left home.
Okay, so...
But I would, there were weird times that I would, I still had a very strong connection with dad. And there were times when I would call him, and when I knew something was wrong, including right before he went to the hospital. And,
which time?
Before he died. And also, I mean, have I told you that story? The day that dad drove, one morning, Dean woke up and he goes, I want to go eat hamburgers with Grandpierre, because he's been watching Daniel Tiger in the neighborhood. And Daniel Tiger calls his grandpa Grandpierre. And I called Mom. And I was like, what's wrong with dad? And that's, she said he's been not feeling well, and they're thinking about going to the hospital. And so that was the morning that was the day that dad Mom and dad drove to Temple that night. And I think I contacted you and Johnny and said, somebody got to go because I can't go right now.
I remember.
But I knew something was wrong. And the thing was, dad had not answered my calls in a week. And dad, he always answered my call. And so I knew something was wrong. And I knew it was serious because he knew I would grill his ass about that. Because dad hated when I asked him too many questions. Because dad didn't like to get questioned. And so I knew. And so...
You knew he was sick, or you knew he wasn't going to make it out of the hospital?
I really wondered if he was going to make it out of the hospital. And that was probably the first... Because I was like, dad always answers my calls. So...
Wow.
Are you enjoying what you're hearing? Follow us on Instagram at LRI Let's Talk.
Like, but even when dad collapsed, 2 years prior to that, or a year? I knew then that I didn't think he was going to make it. So.
Yeah, and that motherfucker made it through. Dad
made it through some shit.
Yeah, he skirted things, I mean, pretty rough, but I always, but I think that's something that we all have, is that, like, sort of sense. But you remember when Ryan died? And I was like, remember I told you and Johnny we have to go to the Harmon's house, and I got with 3 of us went over there. Remember that? And Ryan, the Lil Wayne song, we,
And we were sitting there listening to it.
With him. And it was me, you, and Johnny. And that was the last time we hung out with Ryan.
Yeah.
Because I was like, for some reason, I felt like we had to go visit him. And not him particularly, but go visit them.
Yeah.
But,
we ended up hanging out with him the whole time.
Yeah. And
it was crazy because usually there's 5,000 kids running around. Mm-hmm. But we got to chill with him.
Yeah. And so, and that's, that's something... I don't know. I've always had that feeling, like a weird feeling. So,
name a time when those kind of women's intuition came in, whether it's like stranger danger or I know he or something. Well, do you have one of those moments?
First of all, I don't believe in women's intuition.
Okay.
I think that's like and this is why.
Okay.
It's not that I don't believe that people have intuition, but too often, like particularly in the legal field, I think that we are gendered, and men say things like that. It must just be your women's intuition. I'm like, no.
So it's
because I got common sense and you don't. Like that. I mean, that's not anything to do with my reproductive organs. Right. But
okay, your spidey sense. Because Spidey's in the Spider-Verse could be male or female, cartoon character, or a, white dude in Brooklyn. Spidey sense.
Yeah, I call it my Spidey senses.
Okay, that's fair.
I do. I say that at work. I'm like, my Spidey senses are going off.
Okay.
But I'll say this about that. That's my job. Like, it's whatever that is I have.
What's your job?
I'm an attorney. I'm a partner at a law firm. And I'm a trial attorney.
Woo woo. And she be winning, y'all. I just have to say
that. My job is to have judgment about people and to make judgment calls on a regular basis. And you can't teach that. And that is partially that. A lot of that is Dad. Because either it's genetic or whatever, but Dad always had an amazing ability to call the
spade a spade.
Yeah, which is apparently a racist thing.
It is apparently. As soon as I said it, I was like, apparently it's racist.
Well, somebody said that to me during a deposition. Yeah, like they said something rude to me, and I was like, somebody was like, "Excuse me, sir," and he was like, pointed at me. He was like, "I'm just calling a spade a spade."
And then that's how you figured it out.
Figured what out?
That it was racist. Or did you already know?
I had a sense that what he was saying was not right based off of other things that he said, but I don't really hear people say that very often.
That's like some 1950s bullshit.
Well, the other thing is like anytime you say something and it's like a color that matches with my color, I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like, if it's a black thing, I'm just like blacklisting. So I'm like, I don't know. Anytime you have to use one of those old school colloquialisms or whatever, you're in dangerous territory, right? Like rule of thumb has some questionable things like that.
Yeah, sometimes I'll say stuff and then I got to break it down. I'm like, okay, we are in equal opportunity, fill in the fill-ins, everything. Did I say something? Like,
but it's just like, a lot of things have a racial connotation and people don't even know it.
And sexist.
And I get called on it too, which is something I like about my job is we call each other on that stuff. But anyway, but going back to your original question about intuition, that is, I think, what makes a really good trial attorney is knowing people, because a big part of our job an important part of our job is jury selection. And it's the most fun thing I've ever done. Like, it's one of my favorite
jury
parts.
Selection?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts about being a trial attorney, because what happens is if you have jury duty, a bunch of people come sit in an audience basically, and you're like up there sort of like a stand-up comic or a talk show host.
You, the lawyer.
Whoever's conducting jury selection for your side.
Who normally conducts it? Because, like, on normal day-to-day, if you've never done this, you don't know. I don't know. So tell us.
Okay. So if you're doing a jury trial, like you get called for jury duty. Jury selection. You all get up there, you got your jury summons, and you get up there, and the plaintiff and the defendant's attorney, one of their attorneys will have the right to get up, and they will talk to you. And based off of the answers you give, they can either ask the judge to kick you off, remove you from the jury as a potential juror.
Are you allowed to talk about the craziest things you've heard?
Craziest things I've heard?
Is it somebody that's coming for jury duty?
So the
how does it go?
Okay, so what happens is everybody's sitting there and I just get to talk to them. And so if the case is about a breach of contract and it was two friends who were in the contract together and their partnership dissolved, I want to ask you questions to sort of guess how you're going to view my case, right? So I might ask you, has anybody in the jury, have any of you ever been betrayed?
So, okay, this is a question. Is this true? Like, people that are trying to get out of jury duty, if they're just like, if you ask that question, I'm like, I hate black people, and I'm black, would you, dismiss me from the case?
Well, first of all, I haven't had that. I've never seen that happen.
Okay.
I haven't had that happen to me, because first you'll get a judge. The judges I've been in front of are excellent about explaining the importance of the jury process, because jury trials are dying out, and the problem with that is, and the people on juries are not diverse, and the problem with that is you have people of color and low-income people who are being judged by juries that do not reflect our community.
So when you're thinking about all that stuff, the people that are on the jury panel, right? This just pops in my head, and tell me if it makes sense.
It's called the veneer.
The veneer, okay.
That's what you have before you actually have your impaneled jury.
Got it. So the veneer, all these people that are low income and maybe of color don't have time.
Yeah, that's true. And so there's people who can get struck. It's called being struck from the panel because of there's different types of cause, and one of them is hardship.
So isn't that like a nasty loop that everything else goes into?
Yeah,
the poor and the black male are the ones that are on these trials, but the veneer to select is
the pool of people. Well, a big issue you have is, people got to work, and sometimes the judge is like, you can't, that's not a reason, because your job cannot penalize you for not being there. But if you're an hourly employee, you still might have to do it, and that's the way it goes. I mean, one jury I had, the guy came up and said that, but that wasn't a reason for him to miss the jury. Being on the jury, the judge was like, no. But somebody who was like, I'm the sole provider for my family, the judge was like, you can go, right? But what usually happens if somebody gets up and says that, one of the lawyers may say, ask that to strike that person from the veneer panel. So it usually works out, because you don't want people there who are not going to be focused on the jury trial.
Yeah, but do you hear what I'm saying? It's
you'll never get them on the panel because
you're not going to get, what is it, in the likeness of the person?
Yeah, a jury of their peers.
Thank you. Yeah, a jury of their peers. So it's almost like an oxymoron.
Yeah, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, it's a rough one, and so let's add to the fact that you have to be a registered voter in some situations for jury, and I want to say that it's federal that they get the jurors from the voter registration. State, it's from driver's licenses, and there is a low voter turnout in the black community and the Hispanic community, and so because a lot of black folks and Hispanic folks aren't registered to vote, so.
But we're changing that.
We are changing that, but getting them on the jury, the veneer panel is harder because, all these different things. And, but you'll have a more diverse jury pool when it's based off of the driver's license pool. The other issue that you have is trials can last for months. Some trials can last up to 3 to 6 months.
And a juror can't work that whole time?
I mean, if there's a Friday that we don't have trial, they can go to work. But what if you have vacation plan?
What if you don't want to go to work because you know what you got in front of you if you go to work?
Yeah, after being
500 emails or something.
Yeah, it's in the jury system is just really But we have some protections. If there's a veneer panel with 6 black people on it, if the other side strikes all the black people, then you have something called a Batson challenge, where you can say that, basically they use race
as a determinant factor,
and you cannot. So there's some protections, but the jury process is just, I've been really, for whatever reason, blessed. My juries have been very diverse.
Cool.
There have been women, there have been people of color, there have been people of different socioeconomic status. I love my juries.
Cool. Did you just wake up one day? Have you always wanted to be a lawyer? And I honestly don't even know this. Like, I know you did speech and debate, and you did like dinner theater and all this stuff, but like, how did you decide? And you did mass comm, but like, how did you decide to be a lawyer? Like, did you just fall into it?
No. So the first thing is, the people who argue all the time are the worst lawyers, and it's actually not a big part of my job. And it's funny that people, they think that, and I can be argumentative, I can, but a lot of my job is not that. It's a lot of managing people and emotions all the time.
Your emotions or people's
emotions? Because when you're a trial attorney, people are coming to you at one of the worst times in their lives. They're in a conflict with their family members. They're at risk of going to prison or losing their business, or they've lost millions of dollars, or their life has been ruined. With our whistleblower clients, they have been fired because they did the right thing. So these people's lives are in a shambles, and a lot of it is about just being respectful of people who are in a very challenging position and helping them figure out how to solve their problems. And so I didn't always want to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a biomedical scientist in 8th grade.
What?
Yeah, I wanted to find the cure to AIDS, HIV and AIDS, because I watched one of the first big movies about the HIV and AIDS epidemic was called, I think The Band Plays On. It was on some movie like that on HBO, and I don't even know like how mom and dad let me watch that. I guess I was old enough. I think I was 13 or whatever, but it had a huge impact on me, and I wanted to find the cure to AIDS. And then I had a bad math teacher, bad science teacher, and when I used to get A's, mostly A's in math and science, all of a sudden I didn't when we lived in Alabama. And that 8th grade year, was it 8th grade? I can't remember, but it was about that time that I wanted to do that, but my grades in math and science just weren't good enough. So I didn't get to go into pre-cal and then calculus because of what happened in 8th grade. Because my husband will tell you, who teaches math and science and taught this grade, is that 8th grade is a critical, 5th grade and 8th grade are critical times in a kid's education.
They absolutely are.
And it just deterred me. And then I just did public speaking and debate, and I was really good at that, and I was good at reading comprehension and writing, and so I got sort of moved into that track of people, and math and science just went away. And I could have been, I don't know, I could have been great in it, but I just had teachers who were not very good. Mm-hmm. And so fast forward, and I'm doing speech and debate, and I really wanted to be an educator, because I love teaching people how to be advocates for themselves.
Yeah.
And when I was in Alabama in graduate school, I started doing a lot of, you remember, like grassroots organizing, in a very real kind of way that wasn't just like marches and protests. Like we were doing, trying to get real social justice for slaves that had been killed and buried, on Alabama's campus and in the middle of the campus and all that stuff. And I started meeting all these old civil rights activists, who had done real stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And I soon learned that the activists went to prison, but the lawyers didn't. The lawyers went and bailed them out. And I was sort of like, I think I'm more of the person who would get somebody out and help write policy and do different things to advocate, like Thurgood Marshall, J.L. Chestnut, who was an amazing civil rights activist, lawyer. All these different people, even like Baynard Rustin, who helped plan the March on Washington. Like, I like those strategery kind of things. I didn't want to be out there picketing and protesting and stuff. I wanted to do something a little bit different. And so that's when I decided to go to law school, because I studied the movement and how change happened. And I feel like a lot of people wanted to do this, go and march and, you know, get arrested and stuff like that. But where were the people who were doing the strategic work and doing the policy, writing the policy? Because somebody had to write the Civil Rights Act of 1964, 68, whatever, the Civil Rights Act. And who was writing that? You know? So I figured out that I had a different role in our society, and I had the gifts to do it. And I'm really good at reading comprehension. I know that sounds really crazy, but a large part of our job is reading case law, cases. And understanding it. But even more importantly,
being able to tell it back.
Yes, exactly. And that's where my gifts as an educator came in, because I know how to take really complicated information and simplify it.
Got it.
Because you can be really smart, but if you cannot simplify concepts for people, you're not going to be an effective trial attorney.
How does getting pregnant play a role in your life? How does it affect you?
I had mad heartburn.
You had heartburn. But starting, I guess, before you got pregnant, with the whole process of you getting pregnant, how did all that work for you?
I had uterine fibroids very badly, and they were exacerbated because of the time I was working at a job that was not a good fit for me.
And what exactly are those?
They are basically benign tumors in your uterus. And when I started the job, they were probably about the size of golf balls. But by the time I had to have surgery to have them removed, they were the size of grapefruits.
How many?
I think there were 4 or 5. And my husband...
Was it swelling your stomach at all or something?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, we got a lot of room in there apparently where we can fit a lot of things and not look
We're dense.
Yeah. I thought I was like, well, after I got them removed, I was like, did I lose weight? No,
bitch.
No, I don't know where. I mean, I know they had to weigh something.
Our body be holding the weight.
I'm like,
it's like, oh, you want 80 pounds?
I was like, I thought, they were the size of grapefruits. I was like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds.
Do you have pictures of them or anything?
We have an actual video of them. My doctor removed them using like a robotic machine. But the thing is that a lot of women don't know they have uterine fibroids because they have heavy menstrual cycles. What else? There's so many other warning signs that you have them. And my doctor told us that if I did not get them removed, I would not be able to have a child.
How old were you?
I don't know. 32, 31. And my first doctor that I bounced real quick, because I'm a big person. If I don't like you,
feel comfortable, you gotta go.
No, and if you say something sideways, you're not going to touch my body.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't even let a priest give me communion if I don't like them.
Yeah.
If I get a bad feeling, you're not about to bless me with and give me the Holy Sacrament if I don't get good energy from you. Ask Vicky. I told her I was not going back and getting sacrament from this priest who was rude to us. I'm like, and so, my doctor, the first one, said I was 31 or 30. No, I was like 30, 31. He said, your options are, you can get a hysterectomy. What? A hysterectomy?
Just take it all out?
Yeah. Oh. I was like, any doctor who would start with that is somebody in their, quote, childbearing years. You cannot touch my body. Because I don't know what you think.
And you said it was a male doctor?
Yeah, it was a male doctor. And I was like, no. But the doctor to my surgery was a male. And he was the best doctor I had. He had a crazy bedside manner. He was really crass. But I liked him a lot. But I actually called, I did my research and found, I was like, I'm going to find the best uterine fibroid doctor in the city. And I did. And he was on the board of directors for like the National Uterine Fibroid thing. Like
he was up there.
Yeah. And he was, he actually, I found out later, was medical school roommates with my dermatologist. And dermatologists, if anybody can tell you, are like the smartest, like I don't want to say they're the smartest, but they're sort of like,
really, they're the geeks.
No, it's hard to be a dermatologist.
Got it. You are listening to the Lorraine Infinity Let's Talk podcast. That's LRI Let's Talk on Instagram.
I had the surgery. It was only supposed to take an hour and a half or 2 hours. It took 5 hours for them to do surgery. And my husband just sitting in the waiting room. We weren't married then. And he was just sitting in the waiting room and scared because...
How long had y'all been together?
Oof, by then?
Yeah.
11 years? 12 years?
Okay.
And so it finally came out and I could not walk for a few days and I couldn't drive for 2, maybe 3 weeks. And we got married 3 months after that, got pregnant 3 months before.
But wait, right after you came out of the hospital, you couldn't drive, you couldn't walk.
No.
So
I couldn't lift anything heavier than 20 pounds or 15 pounds.
It was a bonding time for you and Darvell.
Yeah, my husband had to help me pee and help me shower. And, you know, y'all came down. One of my best friends, Shannon, had to be there and help me pee and stay there with me because Darvell had her guarding me because he said Zenobia keeps trying to get up and do things and she's not supposed to. So basically,
Sounds about right.
she kept telling me no. Like, it was like
we do Dean now.
No, do you remember in IKEA? Right afterwards, we went, you, me, and Jess was there. I can't believe Jess has been around for a long time. Good old Jess, our sister-in-law. But y'all were like getting mad at me because I was doing something, and I just remember that I got tired walking in IKEA because it was the first time I'd been really walking. Mm-hmm. To this day, I cannot go to IKEA without getting tired after like 15 minutes.
Mental.
It is a mental thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And but IKEA is a big place.
It's huge.
So it's a process, and it was one of the first lessons in mandatory self-care, because I remember one day when I knew it was really bad. I was bleeding so bad that I needed to go to the ER. But I did not go because I had an assignment due. And so I was like, I knew I had to go because it was just like...
When was this?
2013.
Wait, this was while you were here in Houston?
Mm-hmm.
And you had an assignment due?
For work.
Okay.
And
Girl, I was like...
No, I had an assignment due, and... I was so, I just felt like nobody would understand if I told them I had an emergency. And so, just to be candid, I was bleeding so badly that when I went to the ER afterwards, they were going to give me a blood transfusion.
Wow.
And I said no. I said the only way you're going to give me a blood transfusion is if, I can't remember why I said no or something, but they said, okay, well, they said, you're just on the border line for needing a blood transfusion. I can't remember what they told me they were going to do. They didn't admit me, but they did something so to stop the bleeding. They gave me some kind of pills. And so I had a prescription of pills to stop from hemorrhaging so much that I had to keep taking. And my husband was like, you got to get the surgery.
But he wasn't your husband then?
No.
Okay.
No. He was my life partner.
Your life partner.
He told me I had to get the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it, but I had to be out of work for like 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they really dealt with that well. I don't even think they knew I had surgery. Those people didn't. Was getting surgery and how serious it was. Mm-hmm. And so right after that, I left that job. They didn't want me. I didn't really want to be there. And so we parted ways, and it was the best thing that probably ever happened to me.
So, what is something that overwhelms you?
Waiting for a jury verdict.
What do you do? What's your ritual?
I don't have one.
Whatever just overwhelms you to wait for one?
And I just do whatever is necessary to try to wait, you know. That overwhelms me. My son, and getting my son ready in the morning if I haven't packed his lunch the night before and showered the night, if I haven't showered the night before and know what I'm going to wear, it is very overwhelming for me. My son is trying to get it's so crazy. Getting ready for trial, doing a trial, not overwhelming. Trying to get a 3 or 4-year-old to put on his damn shoes, overwhelming.
What is your favorite thing about yourself?
My favorite thing about myself is I am an advocate. Like, if you are my client and you come to me and you ask me for help, I will fight for you so hard. Like, you're my family. And God helps somebody who fucks with my family, and then I become their advocate. But that's probably, I like that. I'll fight for somebody I feel like has been wrong.
What do you celebrate in your friendships?
Talking shit.
Just talking shit back and forth.
We like not to about each other, but just we talk shit about everything. You know, and I love that about my friends. We can talk. All of them. Lacey, Shannon, Amber, you. Like, if we gotta talk about somebody, we will go all in.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any unique friendships?
My friendship, I guess, if we're talking sort of, I don't know. I guess different people, but we're very similar in a lot of ways. My best friend, Lacey.
Mm-hmm. How?
Just we look very different.
Because you're black and she's white?
And she's blonde hair, blue-eyed white girl. And if anybody saw us from the outside, you know, I guess the better example is her children, mm-hmm. right? She has 3 young white men children who are very socially conscious and aware, but their godparents are 2 black people who live
mm-hmm.
in Houston.
Yeah. Which is like so rare. Yeah,
I mean, I know people who have one godparent is black and the other is white or something, but no, you know, these 3 little boys who I love. One yesterday, my oldest godchild got 5th grader of the year.
Yes,
best PE student. But he, but the thing is, their godparents are a black female partner in Houston and a black man married to her who grew up in South Central LA, who has multiple degrees and
is teacher of the year
and a math and science teacher. But just, they are gonna, I don't know if it's a weird friendship, but you know,
your kids are benefiting from
Lacey and Ryan have done an excellent job in, you know, Amarillo is not a very diverse city compared to Houston or Chicago or LA, mm-hmm. but a great job of making sure their kids are culturally aware, mm-hmm. and a big part of that is making sure that we are a part of their lives.
Well, Zenobia, thank you so much, big sister, for taking time and letting me interview you, and hopefully you feel like you have told some of your story uh-huh. and where you've been and your emotions going through life. Is the oldest of 3. And
which right now is considered a lot of kids.
Yeah, unless you're my friend who's about to have cinco. I told her she was going to have a basketball team before she started, but that's here nor there. You can listen to her podcast interview. I think before yours, actually. Mm-hmm. So once again, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate who you are and how you've motivated me and pushed me in my life. Mm-hmm. Even sometimes when I don't exactly care for your advice, opinions, or thoughts, you are the baddest bitch I know. Like, seriously. So I super appreciate you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you too.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you once again. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And as always, tell your story. Be your own brand. Live your truth. And stand in your moment.
All right, y'all. My name is Zenobia. I am 37 years old. I hope y'all will find your love and work every day to make that love pure and true. And that's real talk, true love. And that you will find a space that will let you be who you are and do what you love. You just listened to my story, as I live my truth and stand in my moment on the Luray Infinity Let's Talk Podcast.
Pew, 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 pew.
Bing, bing, bing.
Have you ever looked at somebody or their circumstances and wondered, what is the reality for a biracial 80s baby who is a single mother that strives every day to push past her adversities? Next time, my homegirl and line sister Asia will be sharing her journey and telling her story on the Luray Infinity Let's Talk podcast.